Hey guys, welcome to Rinse or Drive. Today we're going to have a quick review of this little 1/43rd scale drift car. Showing it to you here with a Turbo Racing 1/72nd scale car for comparison. So it's a fair bit bigger, still pretty tiny. I'll put some pictures in the background comparing to other cars. This is the box it comes in. There's 4 different flavors of this car. There's a little BMW looking one, there's a little unicorn one, there's a little Porsche one, there's a little Skyline one. All of them look pretty good. To me, I gotta be honest, I think the Skyline is the least attractive body. It looks much more toy-like than the others to me. Who knows? When you see it in person, hopefully it's just as spiffy as the others. My second choice was definitely the Porsche, but fortunately the little unicorn cologne came into stock, and I managed to get my grubby little paws on one, because that's the one I like the best by far. This brand, Giabelli, I don't know what the heck you're supposed to say it as, but that's the brand on the box. I have not actually seen it referred to as that anywhere. If you're searching for it, go on AliExpress and search for 1/43rd drift car and it should come up. Now, price tag. I paid 41 Canadian dollars for this, which is about 28, 29 US dollars, something like that. They go as high as 49.50, something like that. And typically it's about $30 for the car and about $15 for shipping, plus or minus on either of those numbers a little bit, right? So it adds up to either a little bit less like I paid or a little bit more. My opinion, this car is totally worth the money. This is one of the cars that I've bought that I least regret the purchase price. You know, I tend to think a lot of cars are a little overpriced. This one is awesome for the money, my friends. Absolutely awesome. Spoilers, 9 out of 10. I love this car. Absolutely love it. I have a hard time even coming up with anything bad to say, because most of the minor criticisms I don't really care about too much. Now, one legit criticism before I forget comes with some rubber tires you can use instead of the drift tires that are installed by default. One of mine is way too big, can't be used. It doesn't fit on the wheel at all. As you can see, one little one, one big one. The big one's a problem. So I didn't get my little tires with mine. I don't really care, not a huge criticism, but it's a small warning sign that quality might not be quite as good as you might like it to be. Comes with a bunch of these little pylons that you can use to make a course. They're kind of big. That's a small criticism. Overall, the car works super, super well. Let's have a look. Steering is nicely proportional. You got a trim for the steering right here. Mine needs to be clicked 3 times every time you turn the car on for the steering to be centered. No big deal. It's kind of weird it doesn't remember, but whatever. No, not a huge big deal. If that costs more money, I don't care one little bit if they just leave it the way it is. Really nice proportional throttle control. It's got 3 speeds, super fast, medium, and slow, and fast. It's still fast. The slow mode is still fast. It can still slide around. Medium mode is kind of the 800 horsepower Mustang mode, and then the high speed mode is like the 1500 horsepower Mustang mode. Totally spinning the wheels all the time. Very, very sporty. Another thing it's got, headlights and tail lights. So you turn it on and you got some headlights there. Hard to see. I'll try to get a better shot of this, but a small criticism, you can see underneath they're very, very bright. There's more light coming down than there is going forward. It is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of the lights myself, so I don't really care. They've got this blinking mode where you can see front and rear are both blinking. Nice feature. Even with the blinking, you still get brake lights. That's pretty cool. When you're driving, I'm going to turn the lights off. This doesn't have the dorky kind of signal lights when when you turn they're signaling all the time. It's got brake lights. Pretty cool. I actually like that. So level of attention to detail on this, I'd say pretty good. They did a very nice job building this little bad boy. It works really, really well. That low speed control is super nice, especially for drifting. You can get off the throttle and it isn't like instantly hitting the brakes. like some cars don't freewheel, especially these little guys. This thing freewheels really nice. You can see those wheels turning, right? So it coasts along really easily, and that's without a doubt the best thing about these little cars. They drive really nicely. I'm nothing but impressed with how they drive. Drifts reasonably well. The only downside, I mean, it's a little twitchy, it's a little squirrely, but it's a little tiny car. You need crazy reflexes to control one of these little cars with this much power super well, right? It's and I'm an old guy with bad reflexes, so I think kids that have the patience to become good at driving are going to be able to do some things with these cars that I'm not really capable of, because it 100% can drift reasonably well. You want about a 6-foot square area, something like that. You can drive on a smaller area, maybe 3 foot by 6 foot, little rectangle, something like that. You could definitely get some use out of it. I'd say 6 foot by 6 foot, maybe 8 foot by 8 foot, something like that. It's probably plenty. You know, you can always use more, right? Obviously, and this thing goes fast, so you could use a huge floor and have a lot of fun. I'm not sure how much bigger than that is really where the point of diminishing returns is, but 6 foot by 6 foot, you can definitely have some fun, and you can race with your buddies, and you know, you make a circuit around the perimeter type of thing, maybe some hairpins. And you can easily have lots of fun with these cars. They're small enough that you don't need a huge area, and they perform really well. Now, quality-wise, quite good. I don't really have any criticisms for what you're getting. It seems very solid. Now, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and it's going to sound like I'm being harsh. I want you to keep in mind that this car works really nice. I've got a couple hours of driving on it. It drives great. It works really good. My one knock, it's a little bit noisy. I put a little bit of grease on the gears when I cracked it apart, and that did seem to quiet it down a little bit. I'm not going to say it made a huge night and day difference. Sorry guys, I lost my picture. I did take some pictures, and I made a boo-boo, and I'm not exactly sure what the hell happened, but I lost the pictures of it opened up all the way. So I just have some pictures with the cover off. Oops, sorry about that. It's not super noteworthy. It's very easy to take apart. There's a cover off on the back diff area, 4 screws. There's a cover on the front, 4 screws. If you take apart the front, be careful. There's little springs for the suspension. You don't want to lose them. The dog bones fall out very easily. You don't want to lose them. It's a little bit tricky to put it back together just because it's tiny. If you have some tweezers, that's going to be very helpful, like some really pointy-ended small tweezers. The only thing really technically challenging with this car in terms of working on it is that it's tiny. So if your manual dexterity is not the greatest, be prepared, just be patient. Unhooking the connectors, be careful. It's got a little 3-wire servo, which is nice, so it should be pretty easy to find a replacement, although I, off the top of my head, do not know where you get one small enough for this car. It's got a little 200 milliamp battery that should be relatively easy to get. It's just a little 1S battery. Yeah, it's a pretty sweet little car. So USB Type-C charging, comes with a cable. Now the gears. I know I don't have a picture, sorry about that. They're little plastic gears that you typically would see in any toy car. They don't look particularly beefy. I would say very on par with the Mini Q TRQ1. If you guys have ever seen one of those, they got little plastic gears. Mine has had no problems, so they seem pretty decent. I wouldn't expect them to break instantly or anything like that. I think you're going to get decent life out of it. But that's something that, if the gears were a little bit better quality, I don't think it would be a bad idea, because some people are going to really like these cars and drive them lots. And again, if I end up putting tons and tons of hours on this car and nothing goes wrong, well then none of this matters, right? This is pure speculation up front. Me looking at these parts and saying, well, I've seen a lot of parts, and I'm not sure how long these are going to last. The one thing, mine works great on the back axle. However much your axle moves side to side, that's how much you can change the gear mesh between the ring and pinion. So on mine, it was not terrible. When I looked at it taken apart to see, well, how much change in the gear mesh is there still was plenty of tooth grabbing even when it was pushed over to the max. So if it's going out, that's moving one of the gears away from the other, right? And then that's going to open up the gear mesh. Well, at the most, it wasn't god awful. Like it looked like, okay, that's, should be okay. I added a little C-clip in there. Pulling it out makes it tight, pushing it in makes it loose. That's how it works with this one, my bad. So if you put a spacer in there on this side, on the, the passenger side, the right side, that moves the axle in the direction you want to keep that gear mesh from changing much. I put a little C-clip in there, and that hopefully is improving the situation. Now, whether or not that actually makes any difference, I do not know. I'm just telling you, that's what I noticed. The front on mine was very nicely put together. The front, it's a little spool with two bearings, and the gears are pressed onto the shaft, and there's splines holding the gear in place. The alignment on the front on mine looks really good, so nothing to change there, nothing to really be worried about. The motor is just a little motor going this way with a gear on the end. The gear mesh between the motor and the spur gear is fixed, and it looked really good, so nothing to criticize there. Yeah, everything's good. Front tires are a little floppy, a little sloppy. To be expected, I would say. I'm not sure if there's much room for improvement there. This one actually seems to wobble a little bit more on the stub shaft. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. Anyways, I didn't actually go that far as to see if I could improve that because I couldn't really be bothered at this point. At some point, if I crack it open again and try to improve it and it actually pays off, I will follow up. Really solid car, guys. Really solid car. Again, sorry I don't have pictures of it cracked open, but I mean, honestly, it's fine. The gears look like they could be a little bit better, but they also could be, if they last, then they're fine. Alright, so downsides. The LEDs could be a little bit better if that's something that you value highly. The level of job they did on them is just a little bit lackluster. Now you might even be able to come up with some sort of little gizmo to direct that light a little bit better. I absolutely cannot be bothered. So, I don't know, in my head I can think of some ways that you could maybe get there. Because this is so small, I'm not sure how easy it is to pull off, and I can't be bothered to do it. So, I don't know. Do what you want. The brake lights are definitely more effective than the front lights. Oh, my little tires were flawed. That's probably my biggest criticism on my personal one that I got. And that does make you wonder about the overall level of quality. Is there room for improvement there? That's what those things are what got it down to a 9 for me. And honestly, that's the biggest thing is if you don't get everything you're supposed to get, like these little tires. That's kind of annoying, right? So, because some people I'm sure are going to want to run grippy tires, but as I mentioned, the car itself works absolutely great. Assuming the vast majority of people get one that's as good as you can expect out of the box, it's a good car. Really good car, guys. It's hard to imagine that anybody's gonna have one in their grubby little hands that works properly and not like it. If you like RC cars and you have a surface to drive it on, this thing's awesome. That's the bottom line. Take that for what you will, my friends. And and the price tag, that like $50 Canadian, 35 US, something like that. Anything less than that is a really good deal. This thing is sweet for the money. And again, the only qualifier, hopefully it's durable. If it doesn't last very long, that changes the calculus somewhat. You want it cheaper if it's really not going to last. Although if it's really not going to last, I don't know if I want it at all. I suspect this is going to have a level of durability decent enough that when this one dies, I will want to buy another one because I really, really like it. I can definitely see it being a total go-to in the long, dark winter months because it's super fun to drive. Alright guys, that's it for this edition of Wrench to Drive, where we ask the eternal question, do you drive to wrench or do you wrench to drive? See you next time.